Find the inverse function of the given function. Also state the domain and range of the function and the inverse function. Let's first determine the domain and range of the given function, and we'll give them using interval notation. To determine the domain, the expression 5x minus 3 under the square root must be non-negative, otherwise the result will be imaginary. Which means to determine the domain, we need to set 5x minus 3 greater than or equal to 0. And now we solve for x. Adding 3 to both sides, we have 5x greater than or equal to 3. Dividing both sides by 5, we have x greater than or equal to 3/5, which means the domain using interval notation is the interval from 3/5 to infinity, where the interval is closed on 3/5 or includes 3/5, squeeze the square bracket. And we know the output of the principal square root is always non-negative. The range is y greater than or equal to 0, or the interval from 0 to infinity closed on 0. And now let's work on determining the inverse function. Remember, once we find the inverse function, the domain of f of x is the range of f inverse of x, and the range of f of x is the domain of f inverse of x. And now let's determine the inverse function. Step 1, we replace f of x with y, giving us y equals the square root of the quantity 5x minus 3. This is the same as the original function. And now to find the inverse, we interchange x and y. So the inverse equation is x equals the square root of the quantity 5y minus 3. And now we need to solve this equation for y, and then substitute f inverse of x for y. To solve for y, we need to undo the square root by squaring both sides of the equation. Simplifying, we have x squared equals 5y minus 3. Next, we add 3 to both sides, which gives us x squared plus 3 equals 5y. Last step, divide both sides by 5. Simplifying, we have the quantity x squared plus 3 divided by 5 equals y. Replacing y with f inverse of x, we have f inverse of x equals the quantity x squared plus 3 divided by 5. Well, if we wanted to, we could say f inverse of x equals 1/5 x squared plus 3/5. And now we need to state the domain and range of f inverse of x. The domain of f inverse of x is the same as the range of f of x from 0 to infinity, including 0, and the range of f inverse of x equals the domain of f inverse of x, which is the interval from 3/5 to infinity, including 3/5. And now let's check this graphically by graphing f of x as well as f inverse of x over its domain to make sure the two graphs are reflections across y equals x. So in black we have the graph of the original function. In purple we have the graph of the line y equals x, which is dashed. And then in red we have the graph of the inverse function with the given domain where x is greater than or equal to 0. And we can see the two graphs are reflections across y equals x. Notice how if we didn't have this domain restriction for f inverse of x, we'd have the graph of an entire parabola, which would not be the graph of f of x reflected across y equals x, which is why it's always important to determine the domain and range of the given function as well as the domain and range of the inverse function. I hope you found this helpful.